Today is basically I will be presenting my reflections on what I thought while I was reading the book. The first thing that occurred to me when I started reading the book was one of the articles I had read a few days back. It was by Umesh Shrestha, if sir remember. He had written a reflection on his presentation about scientific writing. And in that article, he says Hemsor looks at the world, I think literally and figuratively through his glasses in a different way, something like that. Right? So his point was that he has a kind of different vision, to look at the world. So that thing somehow occurred to me as I was reading the essays in the book. Right? I couldn't finish all of them. So first I will tell you what I have read so far, what they contain, briefly. Right? I first read this essay, Days of Waiting. Those who have not read this, I think it might be helpful to you. So this essay is about childhood memories, right? How he went to school, and what kind of anxieties there were related to his school days. About failure also, I guess there is one thing he talks about, and that somehow was a kind of trigger to my own childhood memories. And coincidentally, I am from far western region, and he is from the eastern one. But I found strikingly a lot of similarities in the ways we went to school and the kind of experiences we had. So that was a kind of trigger to my own childhood. So as I was reading the essay, I was completely engrossed in it. I thought maybe Kaple is Bhatta, right? So it was a good read, right? And second, it is Learn English Saga, and I think it applies to everyone. I mean, in Nepal, maybe in India as well. He talks about how we manage to acquire English language in our childhood and as we grow up. And that story also resembles most of us, right? And third one is about his school teaching experience, right? And that is, I think, similar to most of us English teachers. We go through similar experiences, going to private schools, having a lot of problems there, a lot of issues with vice principals and principals and all. And then the most striking chapter for me was Ramblings of a Young Father. I liked it very much, basically, because I have become a father right now. My daughter is only 10-year old. So, 10 months old. And the way he compares his growing up of his sons and his father's growing up of himself, and the way he shows the contrasts, and the way he shows what is changed now, right? What kind of parenthood is needed today. That I think is beneficial for most of the fathers today, right? So I recommend you to read that. Other essays I would talk about Endorsing the Escapes. That has some kind of national relevance. He talks about the issue of brain drain, and he expresses his frustration over why people are leaving and going abroad. So this is my brief sketch of what I have read, and I hope it will somehow stimulate you to read further other essays as well. Now let me talk about what I felt, basically. I would like to list my reflections on four topics. First of all, simplicity. The most striking thing about every essay I read was that they were sincere and simple. Right? I think Hemsor didn't target a sophisticated or high-tech audience. He was basically trying to, maybe consciously or unconsciously, his target was his sons. He wanted to tell his story to his sons so that they would understand, what kind of struggle their father went through. So that aspect was very good for the layman, like me, for example. because we don't like basically understand those intellectual stuffs, quote from any philosopher or anything like that. So if any communication is imparted in a simple way, that strikes to everyone, right? And in this morning I was reading the wall, message by Avi sir. He was talking about well wishes for his birthday, and he was saying that your wishes were quite simple. That's why I liked it. Right? So in that sense, I think the most unique feature of this book is simplicity. And at this moment, I would like to talk about Ek Saur's book also. And it was a very simple in the sense of imparting information. And I find the same quality in the book written by him sir as well. That's the first thought it occurred to me. So I liked simplicity of the book. And secondly, I don't know whether it is criticism or praise. I would somehow say that the book is all about ramblings, right? Sir uses that term in one of the essays as well, and I thought maybe most of the essays are ramblings, right? His ruminations, his meditations. He is not trying to convey any particular message to his audience. I think, in my opinion, he is simply reflecting on certain things. He has somehow selected few canvas, let's say. For example, in this first essay, Days of Waiting, he has chosen the childhood as a canvas, and he is reflecting on just like that, right? I don't think there is any perfect order, any organized sequence, but whatever he writes, it's spontaneous. So, ramblings, I think that came to my mind when I was reading the essays here. Third one, I liked about this book is that it exudes a kind of complacency. It tells people that you should be content with whatever you have. Now, I'm not talking about him, sir. I'm talking about the persona which is in the book, right? I didn't see any kind of frustration whatsoever. When I read, this taxi driver thing, there is some sort of frustration, maybe for Nepal, I don't know, right? But otherwise, when you read other essays, he is kind of happy to share all his experiences. And especially we English teachers, most of us express frustration most of the time. I think sirs also share that view. Because we are not happy about the way things are going. Maybe that is wrong. But when you read the essays written here, him sir somehow creates a kind of an optimistic vision for others as well. You should be content with whatever you have. If you read the essay Hiding in America, he talks about if it is good in Nepal, why to go to America? Or he says that we should be happy with whatever we have, right? Or he talks about these two metaphors, ox and bull, and he says that if I'm happy with being an ox, why to go there? And that's a good way to impart optimism to the readers. And I think that's good, because whenever we read newspapers today, there's frustration all over, right? People are talking about what has gone wrong. People are talking about the disorder, the chaos, the dark future ahead. And that is not there in the book. And that is a good thing about the book, complacency. And lastly, the fourth thing that struck me was the thin line between private and public storytelling. As he is writing his essays, he is telling private stories, of course. Right? He is talking about his school days, his father, the way they struggled. And he is also talking about how he completed his doctoral thesis and all. But then, as he is saying that, there is this, merging of his private story and, the public tales as well. And for example, while talking about Taxi Driver, he is trying to reflect upon most of us, Nepali people, the way insincerity has become a rule for us, right? So there is this merging or combination of story of the nation, story of society, or let's say public story, along with private stories also. So somehow this book would reflect its time period maybe. So if when we read this book maybe after 10 or 20 years, we could somehow guess what was the time during those days. Right? So in that sense, this book could be a treasure from the perspective of preserving stories. Right? That's the first thing that occurred to me. And otherwise, I thoroughly enjoyed. I read 13 or 17 of the texts. And one thing I want to tell you, I want to suggest maybe for the next book, maybe, I don't know, I'm not that aware about how this process of publication went on, but I would suggest if M sir would give others to edit the book more than once or twice, it could be more trimmed, it would be more readable. Otherwise, I found the book engrossing. Thank you.
Okay.